The movie begins on the icy planet of Niflheim in the year 2054, where our main character, Mickey Barnes, has just fallen into a deep trench. The landscape is harsh, a vast expanse of frozen wasteland ringed by alien formations. Mickey wakes up half buried in snow, his thermal and communication systems barely functioning. He calls out into the howling wind, spotting a rescue ship in the distance and waving frantically. A figure named Timo emerges from the craft and trudges over, looking grim but initially willing to help. Just as Mickey dares to feel a wave of relief, Timo snatches Mickey's flamethrower and steps away, citing a disturbing reason. Because Mickey is an expendable, he'll simply be replaced if he dies. Timo explains bluntly that the ship's cloning technology will print another Mickey if this one meets a brutal end. Then he vanishes, leaving Mickey alone in the icy darkness. Nearby, strange alien creatures watch with almost curious stillness. Mickey understands with a bone-deep chill he is about to die. In a flash, we jump to a voiceover from Mickey Barnes, now safe, or seemingly so. He explains in dry detail how his body is reprinted each time he perishes, and how a device called a brick transfers his consciousness into the new clone. Each new Mickey is labeled by a number, and we learn that the version we're following in the prologue was Mickey 17. Mickey calls this cycle of dying both grotesque and banal, describing it as an unending loop that makes him question his own humanity. We also learn this technology is outlawed on Earth but is fair game in outer space, where corporations and powerful financiers can sidestep earthly restrictions. Expendables like Mickey are essential to high-risk off-world missions used for anything from testing lethal pathogens to braving toxic atmospheres. He has died over and over again in hideous ways, blasted by radiation, consumed by unknown viruses, and more. This is the premise of Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17, the visionary yet uneven follow-up to his Oscar-winning film Parasite. Bong's signature themes are here in full force: gaping economic disparities, humanity's destruction of its own habitat, and the dangers of authoritarianism. These ideas are as relevant as ever in today's world, where extreme ideologies have been rising globally for years. Working in English for the third time following Snowpiercer and Okja, Bong Joon-ho once again infuses science fiction tropes with bold satire and incisive class performances as Gonzo, and gleefully unhinged as you'd expect from an actor who has carved out a post-Twilight career by embracing unusual roles. Before Mickey ever sets foot on Niflheim, he was just another ordinary citizen scraping by in the year 2054. Like countless others, he felt the daily oppression of unchecked capitalism. After a failed business venture that he started with his best friend Timo, both men found themselves indebted to a ruthless loan shark named Darius Blank. Unable to repay, they made a desperate bid to flee Earth altogether. Timo turned out to have better luck. He secured a cushy position as a pilot aboard the interstellar colony ship set for Niflheim. Mickey, on the other hand, applied for a job without reading the fine print, discovering only once aboard the ship that he'd been assigned the role of Expendable. A scientist carefully explained how the Expendable program worked. They would take a DNA sample of Mickey's body, store his memories in a digital brick, and reprint him each time he died. This allowed the rest of the ship's crew to avoid dangerous tasks, since Mickey could be disposed of as often as needed. If it sounds dark, it is. Yet Mickey reasons that nearly anything is better than the fate awaiting him at Blank's hands back on Earth. 4 years pass in the void of space. 16 different Mickey clones are printed and killed in various horrifying ways, torn apart by industrial machinery, scorched by cosmic radiation, or ejected into the vacuum. Bong Joon-ho depicts these deaths with a kinetic, dark humor that almost seems playful, highlighting the central tension of the film. Is Mickey truly a person, or merely a tool to be used and discarded? Throughout the journey, Mickey finds small joys. One of them is a relationship with Nasha, the ship's security guard. She's brave, impulsive, and protective of Mickey despite his grim status. Their attraction is so strong that they ignore the official ban on sexual activity enforced by Kenneth Marshall, the ship's puffed-up, self-aggrandizing captain. Marshall is the type of man who loves hearing his own voice, and though his bluster can be amusing, there's a sinister edge beneath it all. He fancies himself a visionary leader, complete with a self-serving catchphrase and an authoritarian flair that creeps ever closer to outright fascism. Once the ship finally arrives at Niflheim, the crew must confront the lethal challenges of their new home. Mickey is the first to step outside, testing for unknown viruses in the planet's atmosphere. Unsurprisingly, the moment he's exposed, he succumbs to a fatal infection. Undeterred, the scientists print Mickey 13, 14, 15, and 16 in rapid succession to experiment with cures. After multiple attempts and countless gruesome demises, the team finally develops a vaccine for the virus. During an expedition across the planet's frozen landscape, Mickey 17, the most recent version, tumbles into a fissure in the ice. The prologue's opening scene pays off here. Timo, still seething over old debts and smug in his pilot position, all but leaves Mickey for dead, taking only a flamethrower and rationalizing that another Mickey will pop out soon enough. But in a surprising twist, a collective of alien creatures arrives to help. Nicknamed creepers, these beings resemble a cross between giant tardigrades and thick-furred bears, and they demonstrate an intelligence and maybe even empathy that defies human assumptions. They rescue Mickey from the trench instead of harming him. When Mickey eventually limps back to the ship, battered but alive, he expects relief and camaraderie. Instead, he walks into a shock. Kenneth Marshall, believing him dead, has already printed Mickey 18. Mickey 18 is noticeably different. A glitch in the cloning process, combined with an unintentional overlap of consciousness, has resulted in a more aggressive, temperamental clone. He sees Mickey 17 as a threat to his existence. The rule is clear. No duplicates are ever supposed to exist at once. Yet here they are, face to face in Mickey's cramped living quarters. From the moment they meet, 18 is itching for a fight, and he immediately attacks 17 with a dumbbell, hoping to finish him off. Mickey 17 tries a diplomatic approach. He convinces Mickey 18 that they can work together, share the expendable duties, keep their secret hidden from Marshall, and maybe have a shot at carving out a slightly better life. At first, this plan seems viable. But tension soon escalates when Kenneth Marshall, after discovering that two Mickeys exist, decides he must reassert control. He hints that one of them must die and possibly both, if that's what it takes to maintain order. Meanwhile, Timo, working in cahoots with Darius Blank's minions, reveals that at least one Mickey will be targeted for execution to settle the old debt. That's not the only threat. The creepers also factor heavily into the film's next act. They may look like lumbering beasts, but Nasha begins to suspect they're far more intelligent than the humans believe. Indeed, these creepers demonstrate an almost diplomatic approach to Mickey, observing him quietly, rescuing him when he's in danger, and generally exhibiting signs of complex empathetic behavior. Mickey's attempts to warn Captain Marshall about the creepers' intelligence fall on deaf ears. Marshall sees them as little more than wild animals that should be subdued or exterminated. Amid these growing conflicts, Marshall holds a tense dinner party in his private quarters. With a preening smile, he announces to Mickey 17 and a few other wary guests that he has discovered a new protein source, gesturing to a dish of unknown meat. Some in the crew suspect that it might come from a captured creeper. When Mickey 17 samples it, he feels a searing pain in his gut, as though his body is rejecting the bizarre cuisine. Marshall's scientists rush in, revealing that they spiked Mickey's meal with an experimental growth hormone. While intended to test new medical breakthroughs, it mainly leaves Mickey writhing on the floor in pain. Exasperated, Marshall raises a gun, threatening to end Mickey's misery by simply killing him on the spot. At the last moment, Kai, another crew member who's shown subtle affection for Mickey, intervenes. Marshall begrudgingly relents, sending Mickey away to recover. At this point, the film grows increasingly chaotic. Mickey 18, furious at the cruelty on display, plots to assassinate Marshall during a public gala. During the gala, Marshall steps onto a stage to deliver a blustering, almost fascistic monologue about order, duty, and the glorious future he's shaping. As he speaks, a pair of baby creepers emerges from a damaged rock formation nearby. Mickey 17 spots them and tries to capture one carefully, recalling that his original mission was to retrieve a creeper sample for scientific study. Simultaneously, Mickey 18, teeming with rage, lines up a shot on Marshall, determined to seize his one chance to eliminate the captain. Then everything happens at once. The second baby creeper leaps onto Marshall in a frantic bid to rescue its sibling. Marshall's guards open fire and kill the animal, and Mickey 18 is tackled by security, exposing the existence of two clones in front of everyone. Marshall, trembling with anger, has both Mickeys arrested along with Nasha, who rushes to their defense. By now, a horde of creepers surrounds the colony's perimeter, presumably drawn by the baby creepers' cries. In the brig, Nasha and Mickey 17 piece together that these creatures must be far smarter and more empathetic than anyone realized. After all, they saved Mickey from certain death, and now they're responding to the abduction of one of their young. Timo suddenly enters, announcing that he's been ordered by Blank's hired goons to kill one of the Mickeys on camera. Nasha and Mickey 18 fight him off, but the commotion only makes their predicament worse. Soon, Marshall arrives and decides enough is enough. He intends to exterminate all creepers on Niflheim, and at the same time, deal with the illegal presence of two Mickeys. Marshall's wife, Ilfa, is arguably even more sadistic than he is. She relishes the idea of punishing the creepers, suggesting they cut off the creatures' tails to be used as proof of a kill. Meanwhile, Marshall zeroes in on Mickey 17 and Mickey 18, deciding to force them into a grisly contest for survival. Both clones are fitted with bomb vests, shoved outside onto the tundra, and told that whoever brings back 100 creeper tails might earn the right to live. No duplicates can remain, of course. The malicious logic is that at least one Mickey has to die. Unbeknownst to Marshall, Mickey 17 has secretly acquired a prototype translation device from a sympathetic scientist on board. Stumbling through the frozen wilderness with 18, he manages to track down a network of creeper tunnels. Venturing deeper, they reach a sort of grand chamber where an imposing creeper leader resides. Using the translator, Mickey 17 thanks the creature for saving him earlier and warns that Marshall has mobilized a genocide plan involving poison gas. The creeper leader replies in plain language, demanding to know why the humans took their children Zoko and Luko and killed one of them. Mickey 17 attempts to apologize, but the leader insists that one of the duplicates must die in recompense for Luko's death. Furthermore, if humans harm another creeper child, every colonist on Niflheim will be annihilated by the species' overwhelming power. Demonstrating that threat, the leader emits a high-frequency scream that nearly shatters Mickey 17's eardrums. At the colony, Nasha has staged a daring intervention. She corners Ilfa and forces her to hand over Zoko, the surviving baby creeper, determined to return it to the nest and avert war. Marshall, however, has already left with armed soldiers, presumably to annihilate the creepers once and for all. In the commotion, Ilfa slashes at Nasha, and a violent struggle erupts. Nasha manages to escape with Zoko, reaching the creeper nest just as Marshall's troops clash with Mickey 18. The final showdown is frantic. Marshall's men open fire, 18 hurls himself into the line of fire, and creepers roar from every angle, ready to launch a devastating retaliation. Nasha delivers the baby creeper into the arms of the leader, who quiets Zoko's plaintive crying. This gesture halts the creepers' charge for a critical moment, preventing an all-out massacre. Understanding that the creepers need a human life as compensation, and to eliminate the problem of having two Mickeys, Mickey 18 decides it should be him. In a spectacular act of self-sacrifice, he detonates his bomb vest among Marshall's soldiers, preventing further bloodshed while atoning for the chaos triggered by his aggression. With the baby creeper safe, the adult creatures back down, and Marshall's men scatter in terror, or lie dead in the wake of 18's explosive demise. In the aftermath, we learn that Nasha takes a leadership role in rebuilding the colony's relationship with the native creepers. Marshall's fascist bravado is stripped away once footage of his brutality becomes public. Some of his collaborators end up in jail. Timo, ironically, manages to neutralize Blank's henchmen once they try to kill him for failing to execute a Mickey, thereby freeing himself from debt. Meanwhile, Mickey 17 finds a quiet reprieve from the unending cycle of violent death that has dominated his life. He destroys the cloning device, ensuring no more duplicates can be printed. The final images are surprisingly hopeful. Humans and creepers engaging in mutual curiosity and cautious respect, forging a peace that allows for a new kind of existence on Niflheim. Yet, despite this optimistic resolution, Mickey 17 leaves viewers with a flood of questions and pointed social commentary. Like Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, the film plunges into deep waters of class struggle, exposing how the rich and powerful view laboring humans, like Mickey, as endlessly disposable. The parallels to real-world crises are unmistakable. We're reminded of essential workers forced to labor under dangerous conditions during the COVID-19 pandemic, or the historically underpaid and unsafe workforce of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. Bong has always championed marginalized people in his filmography, tackling feminism, anti-racism, and social equity, even if he doesn't label himself openly as a socialist or communist. Here, the expendable system is a stark stand-in for how capitalist structures can chew up and spit out workers once they're no longer profitable. Mickey 17 also takes aim at the destructive allure of fascism. Marshall clings to control by stoking fear of an outgroup, in this case, the creepers. His demagoguery, flanked by sycophants wearing matching caps, conjures images of modern authoritarian leaders, with the film emphasizing how quickly such figures resort to brutality and disinformation when their power is threatened. While Bong's message is urgent, some critics have argued that the execution lacks the masterful subtlety of Parasite. Indeed, Mickey 17 can feel scattered in its approach, especially once Mickey 18 arrives. The movie tries to juggle comedic elements, complicated subplots, and swirling visual effects, at times straining under its own ambition. Nevertheless, Robert Pattinson's performance keeps the momentum alive. He brings a delightfully unhinged energy to both iterations of Mickey, showcasing that signature brand of post-Twilight risk-taking we've seen in films like Good Time, High Life, or even Matt Reeves' brooding The Batman. Naomi Aki likewise imbues Nasha with a fierce loyalty that anchors Mickey's emotional core. Mark Ruffalo as Kenneth Marshall alternates between cartoonish arrogance and terrifying authoritarian. And Toni Collette, playing Ilfa, offers a few moments of biting satire, though her character's cruelty grows repetitive in places. The film's portrayal of creepers may remind viewers of the genetically modified super pig in Oksha or the oppressed underclass in Snowpiercer, further highlighting Bong's consistent fascination with how societies treat outsiders and how that treatment often reveals the society's own moral rot. By the time we see Ilfa cooking a creeper tail for soup, the film abandons any pretense of subtlety, hammering home the intersection of exploitation, colonization, and brutality. As with much of Bong's work, you either embrace this heightened style or dismiss it as heavy-handed. One might wonder if there will be a Mickey 17 sequel. Bong Joon-ho is not known for returning to the same universe, but the story does leave a door open. Now that Nasha is rebuilding the colony and forging a tenuous peace with the creepers, there could be new conflicts or new truths to discover. Nothing is confirmed, of course, and many fans who love Bong's oeuvre will probably expect him to move on to a fresh concept. If Mickey 17 left a lingering sense of disappointment for anyone hoping for another game-changer like Parasite, it's still undeniably Bong. The socio-political commentary, the mismatched tones of comedy and horror, and the visual extravagance all bear his signature. In the end, Mickey 17 may not reach the sublime equilibrium of humor and dread that Parasite achieved, but it remains a substantial, fascinating addition to Bong's catalog. Mickey's repeated deaths, grotesque though they are, offer some of the film's most compelling moments, blending shock, dark comedy, and philosophical musing on what it means to be disposable. For viewers attuned to Bong's style, or to Robert Pattinson's eccentric choices, there's plenty to savor in each gonzo set piece. By the time the credits roll, we're left with an odd sense of hope. The colony is tentatively saved, an interspecies truce stands in place, and the cloning device is destroyed. Mickey 17, no longer forced to test lethal scenarios, can finally live without the specter of yet another violent demise looming over him. Yet the film also closes by reminding us that class inequality, authoritarian rule, and ecological destruction are never gone for good. They are cyclical, returning in new forms when we least expect it, just as Mickey himself is repeatedly reborn. If Bong Joon-ho intended for us to reflect on these social issues, he's accomplished that task resoundingly, even if the movie's narrative meanders in places. Ultimately, Mickey 17 is a testament to Bong's ongoing exploration of how power is wielded and abused in extreme conditions, tying neatly into the thematic concerns of Snowpiercer and Okja, while resonating with our current era of inequality and political tension. Whether it's a disappointment compared to Parasite or a triumph in its own right is subjective. What's certain is that it's another bold statement from a filmmaker unafraid to blend genres, smash tonal boundaries, and provoke thought on urgent societal issues. If you haven't seen Mickey 17 yet, consider watching it without spoilers first. But if you have, hopefully this deep dive helps illuminate the many layers of Mickey Barnes's bizarre, repetitive, and ultimately hopeful journey.